Last episode was about where AWS runs your systems. This one is about what it all costs. We'll compare fixed costs with variable costs, then work out the total cost of ownership, the full bill of running your own hardware. After that comes right-sizing, paying for what you actually use. And finally, where managed services fit in. Start with the two ways to pay for technology. A fixed cost is paid up front, and it stays the same whether you use the hardware or not. A quiet month costs exactly as much as your busiest one. Buying a server outright is the classic example. Variable costs follow usage instead. You pay per hour, per gigabyte, or per request, so the bill rises and falls with real demand. When almost nothing is running, you owe almost nothing. It's the difference between a bill you can predict and one that breathes with your business. Moving to the cloud largely means trading the first kind of cost for the second. Owning hardware costs far more than the hardware. The servers are just the visible part. On their own, they're a fraction of what the system really costs. Around them sits physical space, a room or a rack the business pays for. Power and cooling run around the clock, every day of the year. People spend paid time patching, fixing, and upgrading, and every few years the equipment ages out and gets replaced. Added together, that full bill is called the total cost of ownership. Even in the cloud, you can overpay. When you create a resource, you choose its size, and it's tempting to provision for the peak, just in case. But if your real demand sits well below that, you pay for all the idle headroom, the gap between the flat line and the curve. Right-sizing is the fix. You watch actual usage, then bring the size down to match it. In the cloud, that's a quick change, not a new purchase, so you keep adjusting as demand moves. Pay for what you actually need and no more. The next saving is automation. Say you set up a system by hand, clicking through each step. Do it once and it's fine. But every time you rebuild it or build another like it, someone spends that time again, and people make mistakes. Describe the same setup in a file instead, and a tool builds it for you. Written once, it runs any number of times, identically for almost nothing. That's why teams automate the work that repeats. The last saving comes from managed services. Run a database yourself, and you're patching the software every time a security fix is released. You're also backing it up regularly, so a single failure never loses your data. There are version upgrades to install as newer releases ship. Hardware faults have to be handled sometimes in the middle of the night. And when traffic climbs, you're scaling the database to keep up with it. A managed database folds all of that work into its price. You're renting the upkeep, not just the software. On the exam, cloud economics shows up as trade-offs. A question about the full cost of running your own servers is pointing at total cost of ownership. Paying only for what you use instead of buying up front is the shift from fixed to variable cost. Matching resources to real demand is right-sizing. And letting AWS handle maintenance for a fee describes a managed service. Name the idea a scenario is describing, and the right answer usually follows. Let's recap. Owning hardware carries a total cost of ownership, far more than the servers alone. The cloud turns fixed costs into variable ones, so you pay for what you use. Right-sizing keeps you from paying for idle capacity, and managed services trade a fee for the maintenance your team would otherwise do. Spend follows usage. That's the heart of cloud economics. Next episode, who's responsible for security in the cloud? It's shared. AWS secures the cloud itself, the buildings, the hardware, the global network. You secure what you put in it, your data, and who can reach it. And the line between the two shifts depending on the service. That's the shared responsibility model. Thanks for watching, and see you there.